There's a stat that 77% of South Africans don't have money by month end, by payday. 77%, guys.
Do you know who did that stat?
In terms of financial education, it wasn't a thing, and people did not know that they don't know what they don't know. So to convince people to pay, they started selling and started making money. So now they don't ask her for money. They send her money to restock. That's a hand up approach. Or if you have some family, do they have a license? Can they do a short course? Can they? We were laughing with a friend of mine who's in business, doing very well. Usihle, ukuthi, you know, it's interesting how a bank will decline you as the business owner, but approve the person that you've hired because they have a salary.
And they have a pay slip that you gave them.
They have a pay slip. And you're like, how, but I employ this. But most of the people that God used, he provided for, because where there's God's vision, there will be provision. Right?
Welcome to another edition of Mindset Profits, and we are going back to the foundation of the podcast. We're going back to our roots, financial literacy. So today I'm going to be talking to a gentleman that I have a lot of respect for. He's a best-selling author of this book, Winning the Money Game. Let me welcome my brother who teaches quite passionately about financial literacy. He does talks in businesses, in schools, in seminars about this. And I know, as someone who's passionate about the topic and the subject, I know that I'll enjoy it. So this will bless you. We want to talk about financial traps. We want to talk about mindset. We want to talk about debt. That story. Welcome, Bramla.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ntando. Long overdue, ne?
Hey, Wena. It's your fault.
God's timing is best.
Yeah, when you say that, now I have no comeback. I was waiting for you to say something. No, it's your fault. Good to have you. So,
thank you for
we want to talk about this. Winning the Money Game, the book. What was the inspiration behind you writing the book? How did you get to here and to best-selling author?
Okay, so where to begin? So I was doing financial education, master classes, workshops, and talks. And you would have an appreciation that there's only so many people you can reach. Because it's better now, but back when I started, in terms of financial education, it wasn't a thing. And people did not know that they don't know what they don't know. So to convince people to pay, to come and learn about something they don't know, that they don't know, that they don't know, it was a bit difficult. And my partner said, you know what, Mla, you're always reading books.
Yeah.
So why don't you write one? And I always say that I'm a BBSM, born before social media.
Oh, I was now processing.
I think we're in the same age range.
That's why I didn't get it first.
Yeah, so born before social media. And before social media, we used to think that books and certain things are done at 50s and 60s. That you don't just come and write a book when you are young or you're still processing or learning certain things. And my partner kept stressing that, Mla, there are 16-year-olds that have written books. There are 20-year-olds written books, right? And then that sparked to go to, you know what, Mla, actually maybe. And to be honest, I still had some doubts. Had a conversation with one of my mentors, Dave Wilson, and he said to me, Mla, if you were to have a conversation with someone and they are one chapter ahead of you in something, would you gain value? And I said, yes. And he said, well, you are a couple of chapters ahead of most people when it comes to this topic of money.
Yeah.
So they will gain value, because if you wait too long, you will forget some of these steps that you're going through right now. Right?
True.
So that then, emboldened me and gave me the courage to sit down and write it. So I had the outline in terms of intelligence and intellect, in terms of the fact that I was doing the workshops. But yo, man, God is a creator, hey?
You know what I'm thinking, eh? It's not even related to this.
Yeah.
Before we started, you were asking which English to use. So which one are we using now?
I guess this is normal. I think it's
Nah,
global South African. Come on, guys, stop it. So
I like the insight from your mentor, by the way. That's a pretty neat breakdown. And it helps someone who might watch this and have imposter syndrome. I can't write a book because I haven't achieved it at that level. And you're comparing yourself to truly the best of the best.
true.
But understanding that as long as you're a couple of steps ahead of someone and you want to teach them, there's value to give. That's a neat one.
And also, I always remember this example. So we had a professor of stats at UKZN first year, and then we're sitting there. Me and Ubongane, a good friend of mine, we actually co-founded Manifundi together. So we're sitting there, and this guy, we are so lost. But not only us, the whole class. And he asked us, "Are you confused?" And we say yes. And he laughed at us. He laughed at us. So Bongane and I decided, no, we have to find a different stats teacher. Otherwise, we're going to fail stats. So we go to Mr. Singh. So we left a whole professor who has amazing awards in stats, internationally, by the way. And then we started attending Mr. Singh, just plain old Mr. Singh. But Mr. Singh taught stats better because he's not too far ahead. So sometimes you can go so far ahead that you will not be able to conversate
to someone who's
to
too far
someone who's starting, right? So that's the value of, as we grow, as we take our steps as entrepreneurs, as professionals, as people, to document and share at that stage. Because ngempela, I remember I was looking at my CIPC, and a company came up called Black Thread Marketing. I literally forgot that there was a time we tried Black Thread Marketing. So there's so many things that you forget on this journey that if you don't document it, you would you would have forgotten it. Yeah.
Cool stuff, man. You talk in the book about your background and just in general in talks, how you got to find passion in this topic, and it's in your work background. Talk to us about that part. Your job and getting into looking at people's stats and the shock and awe that showed you and led you on this path.
Okay, so I worked at Standard Bank as a business process re-engineer in debt review. And there you have access to certain data, right? And the assumption for me was always that the people that would be in debt review would, you're not earning much and it's tough type of thing. Only to find that there were a lot of doctors, nurses, even chartered accountants, teachers also
On debt review.
And then I started asking myself that, is it really income? And there were also business people. Business people with like 5 cars. I remember the one client was just a matter of, hey, Bafo, just sell the X5 and you sort this out. It's like, no, I'm to bazotin. And we laugh, but how many things have you said abantu bazotini, and you hold on and you fight, right? So then that one, I then brought a mind to me, which, okay, so maybe it's not just about how much money you make or how much money comes in. There's something else. And yeah, it was just a wonder, but to be honest, I was just climbing the ladder, doing my work, and then got a promotion to business analyst in the whole credit rehab. And now you even saw more facets of the credit space.
Okay.
And it's like, it's across the board. There's a stat that 77% of South Africans don't have money by month end, by payday. 77%, guys.
Do you know who did that that research? That is a scary one.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone listening would struggle to believe it though.
No.
Because living hand to mouth. Do you think it's a South African thing though, or it's just a people thing?
Interesting. So it seems to be a global West thing. And yes, South Africa is not necessarily West, but we live a Western culture, financially especially. Because when you go to other parts of Africa, they predominantly a cash-based society and are not really that credit push as much as we are. So it seems to be a Western construct, and that's the system that we tend to function in South Africa, especially financially.
You said it's 77.
77%. Yeah.
So basically 23% of the population is not in that category.
Yes, and for them,
Just about.
and some of those numbers go down if you say 5 days after payday, 10 days after payday. So don't think they are cruising nicely. You know?
So I think the important question to ask yourself would be, where are you on this scale?
Yeah.
Are you part of the 77% that are living hand to mouth, which means every month when the month clocks, there's nothing from the previous month left, and you always restarting financially with a new salary? It's like a kickstart and another kickstart.
Yes. And then when you cite King Solomon said to be the wealthiest man that ever lived, then I think he's okay with us attaining prosperity. And I also share that money is just a tool. Think of money as a hammer, right? A hammer can either build the most amazing thing or it can literally kill someone, you know? The issue is the hand that wields that hammer. So if you're a good person and you have access to money and a lot of it, you will most likely do good, right? And if you're a bad person, you have access to money, you will carry on doing bad. It just, for me, expands who you are.
Someone taught me about the element you brought, the question you got about a poor Jesus in my mind and me struggling then to reconcile that and be comfortable with wealth. I think it's Wayne Malcolm was saying, actually, there's a lot of omitted facts when people read, especially about Jesus. Things like he had a treasurer. What's a treasurer for? You don't have a treasurer if you have 2 rand.
Yeah, and he was also into nice clothes. He had a very expensive robe.
Expensive robe. Remember when he got crucified, even after the stabbing, they did not want to rip it apart.
Yeah.
They had to,
because it was like Louis Vuitton, Gucci vibes.
This one we can't split up. We can't split it up. So we have to bet and see who wins.
Yes, because it was quality.
Because it's quality, but there's other things like when he was born. There's these guys that came to the king to say we're looking for the other king, and they
the 3 wise men.
A whole lot of treasure and gold, and it was. He says it was financing his ministry.
So he was a trust fund baby.
Trust fund baby from the start. And if you look at the parents, I had missed it until he said it. If you look at the parents when he was born in a manger, not because they couldn't afford.
There was no room.
There was no room. So it's not they couldn't afford. So
yes.
when people read, sometimes you think they couldn't afford.
But and his dad was a carpenter.
He was a carpenter, but he says it nicely. He says he was the carpenter, not a carpenter.
Oh, yes.
So when you say we were talking to the man or financial literacy,
yeah,
we're
true.
And back then, carpentry was at the forefront of industry because there wasn't a lot of other things. If you're not building and working with metals, you're doing furniture for people to stay in. So if you're the man in that industry, you're already set. But for evidence, he says he was born Bethlehem, and then they went back. But when they came back a year later, the Bible says they stayed in the house with Joseph had bought. So this guy liked the place, and he bought a house. So that next time I come here, I need to have a house here.
Shine. Love it.
So we miss those things. And you think this is a poor man from a poor family because we just read too fast.
Perhaps.
But I want to hear from the pastors. What are they going to say? Because
I will
the
be
reality
watching.
on the ground is people are praying, people are sitting. Hey, but a lot of Christians are struggling, bro.
So for me, and by the way, when we say these things, there's this assumption that we did not go through them. We also went through
We
them.
also in church.
Yeah. So for me, it's what I'm very grateful for in my journey today is that my work now includes God. I find that we tend to go to church on Sunday. We are very spiritual, we're very there. And then on Monday, we put God aside and now we are in the office or we're in our business. Whereas Deuteronomy 8, verse 18 says that I give you the ability to create wealth. and the only, for me, what he's saying is that just remember that I give you the ability to do this thing, which is why I often share that I did not write this book alone, right? This fruit that you see in front of you now is co-written with God, because when you invite him to your work, invite him to your business, invite him to your purpose, it adds a certain level of divinity. And when I hear the testimonials that I get from this book, I'm like, yeah, this is beyond me. I'm not that old to
Talk
be
to
able
me about
to
a few of those. Talk to me about one or two that stand out for you.
Oh, there's so many. But let me try and choose. Okay, so I think let me start with a teacher. School admin clerk. So I was in Limpopo doing a workshop, and we had a conversation, and I gave her a copy of the book, and she read it, and she now has side hustles. I think she's got 2 or 3 side hustles that she's doing, and on top of that, she then shared the information and the book with her kids. One I think is 17, one is 15. So both of them went and got money boxes where they now save money. And the younger one started a business. Like, it's not a scarf, but the young people know it looks like a scarf or a bandana to me. But young people know it's called something else.
Yeah, we can't keep up.
Yeah,
Don't
we
ask
can't
me.
keep up. But she's selling that thing and she's making money. And, she shared with me that, Mla, thank you so much. You've completely changed how I see money. I see opportunities, because once you learn financial education gets a very sad rap that it's just about living within your means,
Simplify
be
your life.
disciplined and, be sad, basically, So that's the one side of the equation. Yes, discipline is important, discipline is needed. But the other side of the equation is increase your means,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And when you are financially literate, you start seeing opportunities where you did not see opportunities. And then you can increase your means with maybe other income streams, etc.
And the weird thing with that point, actually, we'll get back to the story, is when you're increasing your means and you've got a reserve, the way you evaluate opportunities changes.
Yes, and
Because sometimes you keep disqualifying yourself from opportunities because you don't have the capacity to execute on it.
yes, but also if you've never swam in the shallow end, you can't exactly jump into the deep end.
Oh yeah. Go deeper.
Right? So a lot of people are waiting for that big tender when they haven't done the RFQ. What do you think is going to happen? Right? You probably not. So start somewhere and take the baby steps. That's usually the most sustainable model.
Beautiful. I
yeah.
love the story, by the way.
And the second one was, this lady, it was COVID, and she was not happy with her increase. As most professionals are not happy with the increase, right? But especially COVID, they cited return, like the company didn't make much money, therefore how can we, what. And she bought a copy of the book and she read it and remembered. So one of the issues she had was what they call black tax, family responsibility. It depends on, what your perspective is on it. But it does put a stress on a salary, right? And what I speak to, and in the book as well, it's about give them a hand up, not a hand out. So if we're talking about ugogo nomkhulu and badala,
Yeah.
bruh, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Just give them. And usually 500 for them is a big deal.
Yeah.
But if we're talking like cousins and people that are still young, give them a hand up, not a handout. So she remembered that.
Can you explain that?
Okay, so let me give an example what she did. So they were asking for money back home, and she remembered how. Konje, my cousins are into fashion, right? So she went to Small Street, Johannesburg people will know that, where you can buy affordable clothes. So she bought some clothes, and she then gave it to the cousins in KZN, right? And then the cousins started selling because they're into fashion. So they like this, it's a passion. They started selling and started making money. So now they don't ask her for money. They send her money to restock. That's a hand up approach. Or if you have some family, do they have a license? Can they do a short course? Can they, etc., etc., So that's the one solution. Then the next solution was, so she then remembered back home, we've got land, right? We are fighting for land, yes, but
As many
but
do
it-
in the rural areas.
yes, but in the rural areas, you tend to have some land. And she remembered that ugogo wakhe used to plant cannabis. I'm sure it wasn't illegal back then, but aside, she used to plant cannabis. But if you remember South Africa, we are on a drive to hemp products and
Yeah.
legally done cannabis, right? She's like, how? Yeah, see, I can plant this thing here legally. And she started planting hemp. And also to be legal, the whole hemp license thing is a big cost, etc. And what the book teaches is about working as a team, right? So she then found a partner who has the hemp license, and now they sell hemp oil products via a leased license. And once you learn something, once you learn a game, you just start playing it, right? So she also, just for fun, has car perfume, right? Car and people perfume that she sells with 7 wholesalers, right? I think they're in Swaziland, obviously South Africa, Swaziland, Namibia, I think Botswana, but they're in 4 different African states. From reading a book.
How do you find these stories? Do they look for you?
Oh no, we fortunately worked together at Standard Bank back in the day. So she was just supporting. Because she was one of the first.
Eating him Zamumla, he has a book out.
Yeah, she's like, oh, let me support. Those people.
boom.
And then boom. Oh, actually, quality, and learned a few things. So she's one of my best testimonials. The other one is a teacher at Eastern Cape, Lalin. And we did a project with the UAE embassy where they were doing an education drive, and part of it was 2,000 copies of the book, and we gave 250 copies to different high schools in the different provinces. And the Eastern Cape teacher has used the book as additional reading in her English class. 2 years later, she sent me a video of one of the students reading it as an oral, and then they having questions, etc., etc. And I
Who
was just
answering those then?
no, the class
Yeah.
was asking her questions like a typical book oral. It was
Yeah,
was it?
yeah, yeah.
I know it was a long time ago since high school, but you remember oral, hopefully class, that kind of thing. So 2 years later, she's still doing that, and she's saying the kids have bigger dreams. And the kids are noticing opportunities around them, because we have been taught that whatever you are doing, you are studying in order to come to Joburg and sit in an air-conditioned office. Unfortunately, with the high youth unemployment rate, that is not the fate for most. So now financial education / entrepreneurship, which is in the book, opens their minds to, hey, there is cabbage growing in your backyard. Maybe you can sell cabbage. There is this, you could do this, etc., etc. There's a family
You
business.
have talents, there's an audience.
There's a
online.
family business. Let me stop looking down on my father's or mother's business, but let me modernize it. Let me help her with marketing. Let me help her with packaging. And let's grow this thing. Because it's sad how, and I'm guilty of that as well. My mother was a real estate agent. But because I was quote unquote smart in school with academic colors, I belonged in some office in a corporate and I never really got involved in a business. And I often wonder that if I had gotten involved at a high school level, maybe I would have been able to keep it running when I went back and when she had passed. So those are the things.
Yeah, probably you could have. Let's talk about a couple of things in the book. One, you mentioned already the credit score issue. What's the power of a credit score? What should someone know about the power of your credit score?
Okay. I think let me just take a step back.
That's cool.
Right. So there's this thing about financial freedom and entrepreneurship that tends to look down on a job, right? And to really utilize your credit score, it really helps to have a job. We were laughing with a friend of mine who's in business, doing very well. Usihle ukuthi, you know, it's interesting how a bank will decline you as the business owner, but approve the person that you've hired because they have a salary.
And they have a pay slip that you gave them.
They have a pay slip. And you're like, how, but I employ this person, you know. So one of the things around the credit score is if you have a job, keep it, right? Or find one and really, but now you have that job and be cognizant that you are having this job. Part of the perks is that you can really, really work that credit score to its best level. You can do it as an entrepreneur as well, where you pay yourself a set salary and you kind of collect a salary slip. But obviously, we'll have to see bank statements and over a month prove that you are really sticking to that. But it's a lot more iffy.
It gets murky when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but the job one is very straightforward. So that's one of the very powerful things that I think employees do not take advantage of, is that they can really keep a good credit score. And then with that credit score, then you can really start playing the money game and investing and getting into other things, etc. Because there are a lot of entrepreneurs running out here doing things. But you as the professional or as the person with a job, you are the one that can raise capital. Right. And there's this other I had to write this article once about stokvels in South Africa, because I sometimes consult stokvel. As in, my goal is to turn your stokvel into a consortium. Why
this though?
No, well, it's just debatable. This is like, it's debatable because you don't really sign contracts. It's not heavy, you know. It's just to come in and say, guys, you do realize that you are a consortium. Yeah. It's just that your objective is, you know, either we pay each other our salary, bonus, or we buy food or whatever. But if you were to shift, because only 4% of stokvels are actually investing stokvels and doing more interesting things. So imagine
most just save,
and it's better. Many are actually burial societies and stuff. So imagine if we were in a stokvel in Ntando, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you have a mobile fridge business and you've got two, but you always have too much demand on most weekends, but you're battling to raise the financing. Why told you like stokvel?
Because you're part of it already.
Because you're part of stokvel, right? So either the stokvel will have some equity on that mobile fridge or whatever, or you'll just take it as a normal loan and we'll give it to you maybe at, you pay us interest at prime +1 or prime +2.
So that's part of the consulting that you do.
So that's part of the consulting, right? And what they usually find is that some of them in the stokvel are in business and do require some financing to expand. And the nice thing about when you're a stokvel is that you already trust each other, right? And what banks found was people are more willing to not pay the bank than they are not to pay the stokvel. Because think about it. Sunday, I need to face you. You know, the bank's just going to call me. But on Sunday, I need to face my friend. But what I found weird when I did research for that article was that a lot of stokvels are actually friends. Not many stokvels are family. Yet we say that blood is thicker than water. So for me, what this is saying...
So what are you saying? It's thicker than water, but not when it comes to money.
But not when it comes to money. And if you look in history, great companies were built by families. And even if you look today, most companies that are huge started off as family business. But we don't really utilize that family unit. Because why? Most families don't talk about money. Right? And that's that's part of what the book is there for, is to act as a tool that helps a family start discussing money. And some of the testimonials have been where a mother, a father has bought the book, and some of the parents are like, I'm just buying it for, my 16-year-old or 15-year-old child. But the child reads it and starts bringing it into the household. And then the parents read it.
Say, but Dad, you're not doing this that the book says.
Not like that. It's like, Dad, you know what Nkulumbata says about, we also know how to talk to our parents, right? Right. And then you find that the whole family is discussing this thing. One of the other amazing stories was when someone said that a friend of his told him that he was struggling with his fiance around the finance issue. Yeah. And he gifted him my book. And they were able to find a middle ground. Because when you're talking to characters in a book, you're no longer attacking me about my money habits.
Yeah, attacking the habit itself.
Not the habit itself, but we're saying let's have a better conversation. How might we be more like Mkhulu and Gogombata?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a resourceful one. I'm looking at one of the chapters as well, and I think it will help someone. Dodging financial bullets. What are those?
All right. So financial bullets are those things that you should not buy, but they are just so attractive. And that's the problem with financial bullets, is that it does, at least a bullet, you see it coming, you're like, whoa, yeah. But a financial bullet is attractive. It's like, Ntando, you pre-qualify for 50,000 Rand, right? You had absolutely no need for 50,000 Rand. You came in there for 5,000 Rand, but you walk out with 50,000 Rand.
Because they said you qualified.
Because they said, right? And then in 3 months it's disappeared. You're like, whoa, what happened? But Oksala, you have to pay it back, right? So that's one. The other financial bullet that really tends to get us as Africans is the luxury vehicle. And in the book, Mkhulu shares his story of going through that one.
True.
And for me, it goes deeper. And that's why I say that money is very psychological, a lot more than it is maths. I think a lot of people fear money and classify money as a numbers thing. And I always say that with grade 8, higher grade maths, I'm not sure what it's called now.
You can survive.
You can figure out the basics of money in terms from the math side of things. The challenge is the emotion and the mindset and also the spirit side of things. Because I posit that how you define your self-worth is critical to how you will do with this money thing. Right?
Explain.
Okay. So when I had the GTI, I was no longer Mlamuli. I was low putty with GTI. Right? So you see how now this
Street
car has become my self-validation and my self-worth. So whatever the premiums are, I will make a way because this is an extension of who I am. Right? And I find that the more you get closer to God and the more spiritual you get, especially about who you are and whose you are, right? So I think when you firmly know that you are a child of God and that you are a prince in his kingdom, you don't necessarily need these things to confirm you. I'm not saying don't have nice things. I believe I'm wearing a nice blazer, shirt. But I'm saying...
Look at yourself.
Yeah, but look at you. Hey, well, we are all going through this process, guys. I'm also an African. Right? But do your best to not find validation in material things. Because I remember I was doing this coaching session with this young man, and he said to me, I was like, why do you want to make money? And he said, because I want to feel good enough.
Okay.
And I said, Money is probably not going to achieve that, champ, because we stay in three realms, right? We stay in the spiritual realm, we stay in the mental realm, and we stay in the physical realm. So money can really sort and answers a lot of the physical realm
Physical
issues,
stuff.
right? But the reason you can have someone crying in a Ferrari, right, is because the spiritual and the emotional realms might still have scars. And a lot of people try to bandage those things by getting a lot of money, only to find that you cannot fix a spiritual and emotional scar with the physical item that you purchase. Yes, you'll be excited, definitely, for like a week or two, but that scar will resurface.
Okay. What other financial bullets do you see?
So the other financial bullet I see is, may I ask this question?
Yeah.
You don't have to answer it.
Yo, the way you're laughing
So
scares even me now.
So the first time you took a loan,
Yeah.
did you read the contract?
Yo, no. At least you said I don't have to answer. He said I don't have to answer.
You already answered.
Let's get on with the
You already
podcast.
answered, though. You said no. So
Let me tell you something about
Yeah.
that question. I'll answer in case people are curious, even though I partially answered. One of the biggest financial disasters that I've made so far was when there's a time when I got a black card and I didn't know that. Well, I got to discover that they send you a credit card with a higher limit. I had all my life been used to my credit limits of like 10,000 yana on a high one.
yeah.
So when it got to that, it came and the message was you are pre-approved for, I think it was about 250,000. This is a credit card, ne?
Yeah.
And the app is here. Baba. Do you hit accept or deny? Hey, when like 2-3 seconds, heart palpitation, accept, accept. Now that you know the contract that you're talking
You're not
about.
reading it.
Hey, when,
Yeah, you want the
accept,
250,000.
next, accept. And like a minute later, available. 250K. And
Was
now
it a
let's
Friday?
I've forgotten. I've forgotten when it was, but I'll tell you, in about a month and a half or 2 months, it was all gone. Phew. And what hit me the most was I had worked so hard to build myself financially up to that point to
Yeah.
qualify for those things, and how easy I destroyed all of that with that one move, just accepting. And I reflected and thought, I don't even know where most of it went. When I
Yeah.
look around, I can account for about 60. I bought that thing.
Yeah.
But where did the rest go?
No, it's not foreign. It's very common.
So that bullet, I think
Yeah.
it's 2 in 1, where you are given access to credit that emotionally you can't handle, and then you just lose yourself, and where there's contracts that you don't even bother to read because of the excitement of
Yeah.
the money you're about to get.
Yeah. So
That debt.
as I shared earlier, you get the credit before the credit license. And the way I see it, financial education is that license. Because no matter how much you get, if you are not ready for it, it will be lost. Think of lottery winners. Think of I blew it. Think of REF, right? Because they get a certain amount of money that they don't have the financial education to manage, right? Because in the right hands, that 250,000 that
Joe,
was
it
sent
could
to
have been
you
$1 million in a business. bro.
exactly would be a seed to grow something that will be a fruit that will multiply and give you dominion in a certain business sphere.
Now, I went back and said, after I did my own self-therapy thing, Kaizen, Husa thing, hey, you're not ready for this. Came up with a strategy. Every time I get money, 5,000, 10,000, I'll put it in there, reduce the limit. Put it in there, reduce the limit until I was back to what I was used to handling, Boma 30,000. And I just kept it there for a while. Because for some people, I think that's really what they need to do. Once you've discovered that you are not ready for that level of credit, just fix your life and bring yourself back to what you can handle and just stay there for a bit. until
Yeah.
you get mature in this thing.
Yes. But I think the other mistake that we make as people is the assumption that just because I grow in age means that I grow in financial intellect. No, the knowledge I have about fixing a car has not changed much since I've been 16. Just because now I'm in my 30s does not make me a mechanic. But we seem to have that thinking around the car, money, that, okay, if I'm older, I
I'm
am wiser around money. But, and if you choose to be wiser about money from that sense, imagine all the mistakes that you must go through, right? So make a commitment to Uguti. One of the questions I like to ask in my workshop is, how many of you are afraid of swimming? Right? And usually some people put up hands. Why are you afraid of swimming? Because I cannot swim. And whether you're 16 or you're 50, if you cannot swim, you can't swim. And the nice thing is, if you can't swim, just avoid the swimming pools, avoid beach Deben, you'll be okay. But if you can't swim financially, you can't avoid money. We all get paid in this money thing. So you have to learn to swim in the financial realm, right?
It's one area where you really have to be intentional about educating yourself.
Yeah, it's a game that we all have to play. We don't have a choice.
That's why the name of the book is
Winning the Money Game. But also why I did that was, so when I was a young man, much younger, right? I found that when I thought of it as, I really, really want this girl, I love this girl, I need this girl, my game was just I'm pagamas. Yeah, it just wasn't flowing. But when I thought of it as a game, and what you do with a game, you learn the rules, right?
Yeah.
So me being the analytical person that I was, I always say that I did not work as a business analyst. I was born a business analyst. So being analytical, I then, Uma used to have Gabo True Love, Gabo Cosmo, Gabo, you know. So when I discovered I have an attraction to the opposite gender, I went to those magazines and read up. Okay, so they like this, they like that, they like that, they like that. And I was like, okay, let's play a game. I used to say out of 3, the rule is I can't get 3 rejections in a row, right? So the first one, I wouldn't be intimidated, you know? And it helped me be a lot smoother because I thought of it as a game.
How would you be feeling, though, in that game if the first 2 were no? Because...
fortunately, I'm handsome. No, but honestly, I never got a 3 in a row. But when you treat something like a game, and we all maybe like soccer or netball or cricket or rugby, then you start thinking of money as a game, and it's no longer intimidating, scary, etc., etc. And then you just go, okay, let me find out about these few rules about money. And it's part of the reason why when I looked, because they say that when you look for a book and you can't find it, that's the book you should write. Right? So I said to myself, why are these finance books, one, all technical or mostly technical, and then most of them are also foreign. They're American or European, etc. And I remember one of my other things was like, okay, I studied economics. So they told us about Keynes and Friedman, that's America.
Yeah.
They told us about the Singapore Revolution, the Chinese miracle, etc., etc. And I'm like, where's the African economics? Where's the...
They don't tell us.
You know, and I'm like, how prof? You got all the way to prof and you're African. Did we not do... But so I felt that there's a similar gap in the financial education space, right? And I said, okay, let me write a book that's authentically African, that happens to be about money. And that's why I chose to write it more of Inganegwane. Inganegwane, Zulus would know, it's folk tale. It's like a story, but that has a lesson embedded in.
Yeah, true.
You know, so my granny would say, Ukuli would say, kwasuka sukela, and then we'd say, Kos. and the story would go.
The story goes.
Yeah, so this is it's a light read. It's wealthy grandparents just having a conversation with their grandson, and umkhulu no gogo are sharing how they arrived and achieved. And then within that story, the financial lessons are embedded.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like you're reading a book on finance.
Love it. So what I'm going to do is, or what we're going to do is, we'll put a link to the in the description to where you can get the book. You will provide that link.
All right, but they can also get the book at Exclusive Books and Bargain Books.
Okay, you can get it there, or you can, if you
I'll put
like
it
buying
there.
online.
Yeah, I'll also put it on
Umla
the
will
link.
give us a link. What books do you recommend? One or two that you recommend outside of yours that you've read and felt this could also help someone?
All right, so I would say that if you're an entrepreneur and you're struggling and you feel like giving up and you feel I've made a huge mistake because I actually am educated, I am smart, etc., etc., I would read Welcome to Financial Freedom. Get in the game and play to win. No. Honestly, I know I'm on your podcast, but for me, I don't think I've read a book by a local author that was so transparent, that was so vulnerable. Like you really shared the real journey of this thing, which, because unfortunately, a lot of times entrepreneurship is sold as a very quick, a very fun, a very flexible, tontoni. But in your book, I think you really show the true face of it and the doubts and the imposter syndromes and all those things that we have. But also, I'm glad that you didn't just stop there. You also share how you got out of it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it for that person.
Okay, no, thank you. Another one?
So another book, obviously the Bible, specifically Proverbs and Ecclesiastics. One of the conversations I'm having with a pastor is doing a talk, and then they purchase X amount of books for the congregation, and then we do a bookmark, and the one side of the bookmark will have Bible verses that have a more positive message around money. Right?
Okay.
Because my hope is that you read my book and you then involve God in your finances, and then you start reading the Bible more as a playbook and a guide than a story that happened many years ago.
Got you.
Yeah, because something that Dr. Miles Monroe says is that if salvation was just about going to heaven, then the day you walk down and the pastor puts his hand on you, then that's the day you should die. Right? You should die and then go to heaven. Right?
But that's not the deal.
But that's not deal. The deal is that the day you get salvation and the day you invite God into your life, you are now a vessel. And a vessel to have some fruit that will do the assignment that you're put on this earth for. And then God will help you develop that fruit, multiply the fruit, and have dominion in that space.
Love it. As we conclude, what advice do you have for someone who says, I'm truly inspired by you, how do I start over? Life has done a number on me. Words of encouragement or just advice?
Yeah, so for me, I would say try to find the lesson. For me, even being in this, I call it my financial ministry. Even being in this financial ministry comes from my greatest pain. If my mother had not passed and I did not go through that financial odyssey back home, I probably could just be some executive, chilling in some office somewhere.
So that English is in you.
It's there. So from your greatest pain usually comes the greatest gift that you can serve the world with. And then you get financial education in order to monetize that gift, because Proverbs does say that your gift will make room for you, but I find the gift does make room, but some people don't monetize that gift, and then they become frustrated. So
it's like a door that's open and you don't walk in.
You do walk in, you become famous, we celebrate you, you do the things, but you don't really monetize it. and then you're frustrated, because also there are seasons. Remember Joseph? There was a 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine. So in the time and in the season of your gift, if you do not monetize it properly, they probably will come
A time when
a
you
time.
can't.
Okay.
Beautiful. So what you're saying is you have a gift, you have a talent, you have something that you can use in the marketplace.
Yeah, and when the world has knocked you, there are lessons in there. And those lessons, when they are now refined and fine-tuned and packaged, they become a gift that can be monetized to help the next person to either get out of that or to avoid that which you went through.
Thank you very much. The book is Winning the Money Game. You heard it, you'll get it, link in the description, or you can get it exclusive books, bargain books. Thank you so much for sharing and pouring your wisdom and heart on the platform, bro.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
What we want to do is we're going to do some live masterclasses. We'll invite everyone to these. I know the first one with Doric is coming up. We did advertise it on an episode with Doric called Communicate Like a Boss. But we're going to have rounds of financial literacy conversations as well. We'll record podcasts in those, but you will be there to ask questions. So look out for that link. We will continue to let you know when they're coming. But we have some big plans for you. And this is from me saying thank you for helping us grow. We have hit 8,000 subscribers at the point of this recording. And this is like 3 or so months after celebrating, 4 months or so after celebrating 1,000 subscribers. So it's been quite the roller coaster, all because of you. Thank you from us, and see you on the next episode.